Hello everyone, happy fall. It's been a while since I made a video tutorial. Recently, I've been listening to many clarinet students preparing for their auditions and contests, and I thought I should use this opportunity to help some of you play better. In this video, I'd like to use number 21 from Rose 32 Etudes for clarinet as an example. This is a wonderfully lyrical work that showcases the beautiful singing capability of the clarinet. Make sure you play with the most beautiful singing sound. Find a clear and responsive reed that will allow you to effortlessly produce a vocal tone. Bring out the shaping and phrasing as well as dynamic range. The key here is subtlety. Don't overdo any of the markings in the music. It's tempting to show that you are a wonderful student by bringing out all the accents and hairpins, but make sure that you can strike a good balance. Think about how these markings, be it dynamic or expressive, help the expressive possibilities of the music rather than doing them for the sake of doing them. A very good method here that I cannot recommend enough is to record yourself. You realize many things that you are doing that you may not be aware of while you are playing. Technically, this etude tests our ability to maintain a pure tone, long lines, legato playing, breath control, and intonation. Make sure to relax your body as you play because tension in your body will transfer to your armature and your jaw, make your jaw tighter than necessary. This will result in a pinched sound and that you have trouble making some of the higher clarion notes speak easily. There are many clarion A's in this piece. Make sure you can play them beautifully. Many students struggle to have this note speak immediately, and usually it starts with a grunt or so-called undertone like this. So you could perhaps do a little exercise and try to find how much reed that you may actually need in order for the A to speak easily. In my overall experience, I often see high school students perhaps not having enough mouthpiece in their mouth. And the high clarion register really needs quite a bit of reeds inside your mouth in order to vibrate clearly. You usually get away with it for the lower clarion notes like the C or D if you don't have enough mouthpiece like this. But as you go up, your clarinet is not going to be very happy if you do that, right? So make sure that use this A or B as an example. You could practice to see, perhaps I could use just a little more mouthpiece inside my mouth, and perhaps that will help it better. If not enough, so that you can put a little more. That's pretty good. Whoop, that's a little too much, so you can back away a little bit. So a little by little, and you can find the right sweet spot on the reed. Also, the way to practice is that perhaps you can try to play the undertone only and then slowly, gradually get to the real note like this. And you can also play a little game with yourself. You can go back and forth. And then you can ask yourself, well, what is it that I'm doing to produce the grunt? And what is it that I'm doing to produce a beautiful A? And then once you know the difference, then you can always make sure that A speaks. One last method that you could practice is you could play an A without the register key. My thumb in the back is only covering the F without the register key. This may be difficult for some of you. If it proves to be too difficult, you could use the open G as an example, which is exactly the same idea. The point of this is to find exactly the right armature, as well as pressure, as well as placement, as well as your tongue position, for the clarinet to vibrate in the high clarion register. So by overblowing the open G, you are playing basically a high D, right? And the same thing would be true if you can overblow an F, you get a C. And you'll realize without the use of register key that you will be forced to create a perfect environment instead of relying on the register key for you to force your instrument in the high clarion register. So once you can play, for example, an open G and its partial up as a high C, or an F, and then you could play without the use of register key for the high C, then you should be able to play many of the A's in this piece without problem. And you can do similar exercise for the high E later in the piece with the fermata. This way to make sure that the E speaks beautifully, as well as avoid the possibility and risks of squeaking. The key is to provide the perfect environment for your reed to vibrate in that register. Many times we think, oh, we have the correct fingerings, therefore it should work very well. However, your reed also needs the correct environment, as well as have the right fingerings. So a lot of times you may finger in one note, but then you give a wrong signal to your reed, and you rethink that you're going to vibrate in a very high register, or perhaps you gave your reed a sort of environment that for it to vibrate in the low register. So none of that will work except for the most perfect environment. And the way to test that out is if you find yourself squeaking on that note, or perhaps playing an undertone, or perhaps vibrating in the wrong register, that immediately to repeat that, just to see exactly what you're doing. So understand your mistake and understand the not so correct environment. It's as important as understanding the correct environment. So if I hear my student play squeak that note or playing an undertone, I often ask them to repeat all of these on command, like this. Oops, I squeaked. Or I play some sort of multiphonic because my clarinet, I think that I'm going to vibrate in the lower register, but I used a high register fingering. So this is what I usually ask my student to do, is that I want them to play all of their mistakes. And one of them was correct, which was the second to the last one. And therefore, knowing all of them, and you can also play them back and forth really well. If you can note all of them super well, then you should be able to play it perfectly. Make sure that the beginning of phrases sounds beautiful, as well as the end of phrases. Many students tend to play the very last note at the end of a phrase too short, especially when they have to breathe right after. So keep in mind, there's always a little subtle stretch of time that you can do to make sure that both sides of the breathing sounds beautiful. Many students tend to play something like this. It's very natural because we want to make sure that we have enough time to breathe, as well as the music should go on, because there is an invisible metronome inside of us. However, just to keep in mind that you can always stretch the time a little bit and make it a little more human. Finally, when in doubt, like I said earlier, always record yourself. Record yourself a lot. And when you listen to your own recording, you will notice so many things that you do, perhaps not enough or perhaps too exaggerated. And I'm sure you can use your own judgment and your good musical taste to adjust when you practice. All right, well, good luck everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and go and make great music.